Nothing quite compares like a front row seat to two monsters beating the shit out of each other. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Oh, I guess that's my fault for setting up my camp next to an active intersection. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, one of the more personalized and customizable parts of your experience in Monster Hunter Wilds is the pop-up camp system. This changes how tents have worked in prior Monster Hunter games, mostly because by exploring all sides of the maps, you can find a bunch of different locations to stick up your own camps, but you have a limited amount that you can have active at any given time on each map, and so you get your own choice of where to place each camp. Today, very simply, I'm going to show you the full list of camps for each map, at least as far as I'm aware of them personally, but there are some really obscurely placed ones, so it's always possible there's one really well placed one hidden away somewhere I haven't seen. As we go over that list then, I will explain in a bit more detail how to get to any of them that are a bit harder to find as well, and then I will make my recommendations of a specific choice of 5 pop-up camps per map, as you can have up to 5 as you progress the story, except for one map that I'll talk about in detail. The idea though is that these will weigh the safety of each camp, the convenience and positioning related to the zones that matter, how often you are likely to use it for fast travel, so actually spreading which camps you choose around the map nicely so they're relevant, and then of course just any aesthetic considerations too, is honestly some of the camps just look really nice whether they are efficient or not. That said, we will go in map order, so if you aren't fully through low rank yet, drop out as necessary to avoid map spoilers. First up then, let's talk about the Windward Plains, in which I've got 13 separate camp locations, the most of any of the maps in the game. We have this one over in Area 3, which isn't in too bad of a place. We've got this one over in Area 4 inside of a cave, attached to the same place where this one is as well. Then there is this one in Area 6, which is a little bit more hidden, so I'll go into how to actually find this once we've gone over the whole list. There's this one on the southwest side of Area 8, which is honestly a fine place if it wasn't for the fact that the actual Kanafa village is about 20 feet to the left of this, so it's just a waste of a fast travel location, whereas on the southeast you can get a bit more mileage even though it isn't secure, as well as Area 10 up here, just a little bit up and right. I prefer this one to Area 8, but the best one in the sort of top right quadrant is Area 9. This is relatively close to the actual base camp on this map, but it is the close, easy way to get to the top right side very simply. Then past that we have Area 13. This is the prettiest camp on this map as far as I am concerned personally. It's just a nice, well-placed spot right beside the actual spot of water in the big sand zone, and of course it is very dangerous because monsters love that water as well. They drink from it all the time and you can see them do it. We have slightly further to the west in Area 13, which is a different option to be in the same zone, but a little bit safer. However, if you're going to do that regardless, you might as well just go for Area 14, which is underground directly below the oasis and safe so it won't be destroyed by any monsters. Then we have Area 16 over here, and there are 2 within this zone, one on the south side and one on the north side of Area 16. That said, let's talk about the actual camps that I use personally, the ones that I would recommend. This would be Area 6 all the way on the left. This is your shortcut to Area 6, Area 3, Area 2, and Area 11 pretty much. Then we go for Area 9 over here. This gives you a shortcut to the whole upper right side of the map. Remember that you got automatic fast travel available already to Kanafa Village directly in the middle there in that middle section, and the base camp is between Area 1 and Area 7. So this gives you top right coverage, this gives you left side coverage, and then Area 13 Oasis is sort of a spare camp that I use just because I love the visuals of the place. You don't really need 5 camps on this map because of the actual locations. They're very nice, and while this one does get destroyed all the time, I just really love the aesthetics of it, so I keep it anyways, honestly. That said, the underground one under the Oasis is very safe and very good for getting to that zone quickly, as well as of course the underground areas beside it. And then this one over here on the southern side of Area 16 is in a very nice tucked in away corner that lets you easily get to both Area 16 and Area 17, and these are mostly places where you'll just be like fighting right now, but it's nice to be able to get to them relatively easily from a camp that you have placed. That said, there are 2 camps that are in a slightly odd location to find, so I will be showing you the exact spots and routes on the map. Right here in Area 3, there is the Area 3 camp here. It's just on this little elevated platform that you can get to from right here. Then there is also Area 6's camp, which you get through from the same general location, going up this small wall here, over into here, up there, and up another wall, over to the actual location of the camp itself, which is relatively obvious once you've found the sort of entrance to this area in the first place, as it is a little bit hidden to begin with. Then moving on, we have our next map, which is the Scarlet Forest, and on this map we have 12 camps as of this moment, one in Area 6, one in Area 7, right at the bottom of the big tree, which is a pretty good spot, even though it is a dangerous camp to have. It is one that will get destroyed pretty frequently, friendly, but it's at a pretty important junction, which makes it worth having anyways, honestly. Then there's Area 8's camp over in the underground camp over to the top right. We have Area 8 South camp as well, which is a dangerous camp instead of a safe camp, so you might as well get the safe one in Area 8 if you're choosing between them. Then we have Area 10 Southwest, which covers the left side of the map, but also this can be covered from above. So this is a fine camp, but it is a dangerous one, so there are better options. We have Area 12 Northwest, which is right beside the underground lake camp as well, so it's sort of unnecessary for something that is insecure. Area 14 up here is up in the upper sections of the map, up on the trees, and this is one that the game marks as dangerous, but I don't think I've actually had this one ever destroyed by a monster, so I think it's in a pretty good spot, to be completely honest with you. Then we have two that are mostly just extremely hidden right back to back in these Area 16 ones. They aren't obvious to find in the slightest. Neither one of them is particularly efficient to move from. They're not in very useful locations, but they are both safe, so they'll never be destroyed, and they're in pretty cool places, honestly. They're in places that look cool, they're in places that are fun to have a camp, and just have a view out onto the map, so they are worth having for that reason, if nothing else. Then there's also this one up on the Great Lake shore, and this is mostly just for giving you an easy route to Duna when you're fighting that monster on this map. And then we have these two over here on the top of the big trees, but on the southern side, so choose one of these generally, and they are very close to each other, so the choice is mostly up to you. That said, the specific 5 that I go for myself are this dangerous one at the bottom of the big tree. Yes, this does get destroyed pretty frequently, but you can also just put it back up whenever you want it, and it's a very useful fast travel point right here to the sort of bottom right section of the map. This gives you easy access to Zone 7, Zone 6, Zone 3, Zone 4, everything that isn't beside the actual base camp in Zone 1. Then I also take the underground lake for just easy access to the top right corner there, Zone 8, Zone 12, moving up towards Zone 13, which is a little bit closer to the Zone 14, and this one is pretty self-explanatory again, as I mentioned earlier. The game calls this one dangerous, but I haven't had it destroyed before, and it is otherwise just very well placed evenly between a bunch of other tents, making it a good fast travel location to have. Then we also have this one up near the Great Lake shore. I already described why you'd take this one. It's mostly for duna, so it's a very useful one to have. Gets you up to the top left side of the map, but without any convoluted paths to get out into the actual areas. And then you would generally take one of the two Area 18 ones. I've chosen this one on Area 18 West because you can also use this to drop down onto Area 10. So this is basically my camp that covers the entire middle left side of the map as well. And with this spread of 5 camps, as you can see, I've got a very good coverage across the whole map if you include the fast travel you get from the base camp for the map too. That said, there are two particularly awkward to find camps, even if you see the locations that I've been showing already on the screen on this map, and these are Area 16 Ruin Interior Campsite, which shows as being up here because Zone 16 is above. However, you access this down from Zone 15. There's a little hole behind a waterfall right here that you can see on your map. You follow this up and through, and that's where you'll find the camp itself. As for the other one over here, the down behind the waterfall one, you go to Zone 16 itself. This path won't be visible until you actually find it, but right beside this fire herb here, which you will see on your map, there is a seikret only path that you can follow all the way down and around to get this camp, which is hidden and tucked away nice in the back, and this is a very beautiful little vista to look off the side of the map as well. Then moving on to our third map for the day, we have the Oilwell Basin, and on this map I have currently found 8 camps, so we are dropping down quite a bit in quantity from the previous 2 maps. The first one we have over here is on the left side of the map in the Canyon Divide, and even though this is Area 1 and Area 2 where this is located, the actual base camp, the default fast travel for this map, is up in the top right, so this is a pretty useful spot to have, especially because it is safe from being destroyed by monsters. Then we have the one in Area 4 over here, which is actually relatively close over towards the camp as well, and while there is a whole zone up here, not a whole lot of monsters fight over in this general area, so I don't consider this one to be entirely necessary. Then there is the Middle Strata North and Middle Strata South, and these are both just the sort of, exactly as they say, north and south of the middle section of this map. Essentially, they are both relatively useful, even though this one up here is very destructible. As you can see it literally getting destroyed as I'm talking about it. There are monsters that will fight in Zone 8, but generally this will be active when you actually want to fast travel at the start of a quest at least. Then over here we have the Zone 12 camp, and this one is safe, but it is quite far out of the actual zones, but it's nothing entirely that important. Then up here in Area 13, again tucked off of the actual Zone 13 itself, is the Limestone Cave set right here, and then in Area 14 we have the Mining Cave. All 3 of these are not really in their actual zones, they're cut off of it a fair amount, which is why I generally much prefer Area 15's camp over here, as this one is actually attached to a zone, and while it says it's dangerous, it is tucked away in a nice little corner where it doesn't often actually actually come into danger. That said, the camps that I'm using here personally are the Area 2 one, just to give me very good access to the entire left side of the map. Then I have both of the middle strata ones, as these cover a lot of ground on the map and they're very useful, especially being on the middle layer. You can easily get to the top or lower layers without too much effort going on. And then I have this one up in Area 13, mostly just to have one that is guaranteed to be safe, that is still relatively close to that middle strata north one, as again, that one does get destroyed relatively frequently, even though it's one that I do recommend. And then we have the lower strata north one all the way on the top right here, and this just covers most of the right side of the map. Honestly, it's in a very solid spot, and again, even though the game says this one is dangerous, it isn't in my experience. That said, none of the ones that I've shown here are actually difficult to find on this map as far as I'm concerned. All of the paths that you can see on the actual map that you're seeing here are very accurate to actually show where to get to them, so I'm not going to bother showing you the extra detailed ones for any of these. That said, moving on, we have the Iceshard Cliffs camps as well, and again, the number is going to go down here. I've only found 7 camps on the Iceshard Cliffs. The first one is Area 1, this one's pretty default, and it is in a very good spot. I do recommend keeping this one. There's the one up here in Area 6, which isn't too terrible, but it is the only dangerous camp on the entire map, so you should probably question whether you want it at all, given that it's also in between some other camps that are safe anyways. This one, Area 7, on the left, just covers the entire left side of the map. It also is an incredibly beautiful vista. Have a look at this view. You can essentially see the top of the Everforge from up and above, which looks very cool from off the side of the Iceshard Cliffs. Then we have this one over here in Area 15. This covers most of the top right side of the map. It's a very useful spot, and you can get to the other actual vertical levels of the map pretty easily from here too. There's also this one down in Area 18. This is a useful one, but basically it is a little bit out of the actual zone itself. You have to do some climbing, some traversal, and so I don't generally consider this one too relevant unless you just like the location. Then there's this one up on Area 19, and this is just very easily accessing a lot of the other middle zones in the area, and Area 20, which gives you access to the very lower layer, as well as the bottom right side of the map very easily, and pretty quick access to some verticality as well if you need to do some transferring. That said, the only one on this list that I consider a little bit awkward to get to is this one in Area 7, so I'll show you the actual path to get to too. Here you can see from Area 7 in the Iceshard Cliffs, there is this wall on the sort of northern side, and if you climb that wall, you'll be into this area that transfers up towards Area 8. But if you don't take that full transfer right here, you can find a little hidden entrance into a side area with another vertically climbable wall, which leads you directly to the camp itself of the watchtower, with this just absolutely lovely view, where some Hirabani can actually just sort of float by at any given point, which I didn't know was a thing, but am now just seeing for the first time, and this is fucking awesome. They don't seem to be aggressive in the slightest. They're just sort of going by. It's just, I guess, a visual flavor bit of this camp, I guess. That is so cool. Then finally we have one more map, and this is the only one that is sort of spoilery for people who haven't progressed to the later stages of low rank, so if you have not done that, this is your chance to look away. Otherwise, let's talk about Wyvria. This map, as far as I've found, only has 6 camps, and unlike the other maps, has a cap of 4 camps that you can have on an active at a time instead of 5, which makes sense because 5 out of 6 wouldn't be much of a choice, would it? That said, there are 6 that I found. This one in Area 2, right near the top. This is essentially right next to the actual hub city itself, so there's not much of a point in getting this one, honestly. Then there's this one in Area 6, which is in a fine spot, but it's the only dangerous spawn on the map, so it's not really worth having compared to the others as well, especially because this one is on the sort of southeast side of Zone 6 as well, just down a little waterfall, as you can see from the map here, and it is safe for monsters too. There's this one in Area 8, which covers the middle to lower section of the lower side of the map, the parts that the base camp of the map does not cover. Then we have Area 9, which covers the right side on this verticality as well, and then finally Area 13, which is the only camp on the very bottom layer of this map. It is a little bit far out of the actual zones, but it's on the right verticality, so it's not a bad one to have, especially considering there are 6 camp options and 4 camps that you can set here. So as you can see, the 4 that I've set are Area 6, because the base camp default fast travel is on the left side of the upper layer. This one's on the right side of the upper layer. I've got these 2, which are on the left and right side of the middle layer, and then I've got the only camp that is on the very bottom layer. Essentially, this is just skipping vertical traversal when actually trying to reach monsters. That's the best you can really do with your camps for this map from the 6 that I'm aware of. That said, there is only one that's sort of hard to find on this map, that is this one here in Area 13, and so I'm now going to show you this on the actual map for a bit more detail. On the sort of upper side of Zone 13 over here, where you saw it on the previous map, there is a vertical wall that you can climb up, leading to a bit of a tunnel that you can follow to a bit more of an open chamber, which is where you can put up the actual pop-up tent itself. And that pretty much covers it for the locations and my recommendations of which ones for all of the pop-up camps in the game, at least the ones that we're aware of right now. That said, with all that covered, there's also another thing to talk about with the camps, of course, which is that not only can you fully customize them, but you can set different looks for each map for your tents too. So you can make the aesthetics actually fit each one as well, which is honestly just really cool. There's a ton of stuff that you can do in here, patterns and colors to apply to the tent itself. You can get control of the actual items that exist outside of your tent as well for a bit of ambiance. And for those wondering, yes, if you put down a chair, you can in fact sit in the chair. And they actually get unique emotes too while you're sitting in them compared to other seats within the game, so that is an extra layer of fun that you can have here too. Personally, the main customization that I've made is just having a somewhat like mushroom looking tent because I enjoy this one, but there's a lot of creative stuff that you can do with this system if you dive into it properly, especially for the more artistically minded of you out there. That just about does it for today, and everyone. A list of every camp location I'm currently aware of in Monster Hunter Wilds after well over 100 hours, the ones that I generally recommend for each of you to use for each maps, and a little bit of how to actually get to some of the more awkward ones along the way too. If you know of any camps that were not covered in this video, please let us know down in the comments below so that we can spread that information to other hunters out there too. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.